Hi everyone, welcome back. Thanks for joining us today. We've got a brand new story to share with you, so let's begin. My name is Henry, and I'm in my early 30s. When my girlfriend tried to control my money, I smiled, because I knew her days in my life were over. I threw her things out, and her mom called me 3 days later, crying. But here's how everything started. Jasmine and I were together for 4 years. Looking back, I'd say the first 3 years were truly something special. She was beautiful, but more than that, she was smart and driven. And in those early days, she was affectionate, attentive, and genuinely supportive of everything I was working on. We laughed a lot. We traveled. We planned together. She didn't just feel like a girlfriend. She felt like a partner. And I don't say that lightly. Around the second year of us dating, Jasmine made a bold decision. She left her corporate job. She told me she wanted to build her own brand, something fashion-related. At the time, she had some savings set aside, and she was optimistic about making it on her own. I believed in her and told her I'd support her in any way I could. And I meant it. Eventually, her savings dried up. You know how it goes. Branding, website, marketing, inventory all cost money, and returns aren't immediate. She started to rely on me financially, and I didn't complain. In fact, I encouraged her to move in with me. I figured it would ease her burden and give her room to focus fully on her dream without worrying about rent and other bills. It was what you do when you love someone and see potential in them. But things started shifting, slowly. Not just with her, but with the people around her, too. See, Jasmine had no idea that I wasn't just helping her. I was also helping her family. Her mom needed help with medical bills once. I handled it. Her younger brother needed tuition support. I sent the money. I didn't do it to be praised. I just wanted to make life a little easier for the people she cared about. At first, I didn't notice any red flags. But somewhere along the line, Jasmine began to ask for expensive things. When I told her we should hold off or that it wasn't a smart buy right now, she'd respond with, "Well, if you loved me, you'd just buy it." At first, I thought she was joking. I'd laugh it off and explain, gently, that love shouldn't be measured by the price tag on a gift. I'd tell her it wasn't about not wanting to give, but about spending wisely. But she never saw it that way. The more I tried to reason with her, the more she pushed back. It was like my love was being measured in currency. Then her family's behavior started to mirror hers. When I first stepped in to help them, they were polite and grateful. Over time, though, that changed. Their gratitude turned into expectation. It got to a point where I wasn't even being asked for help anymore. I was being told. If there was an issue, I was expected to fix it. Still, I kept going. A part of me hoped that once Jasmine's business picked up, things would level out. Maybe they'd find their own footing and stop leaning so heavily on me. But now, looking back, I see how I was slowly being recast in their story as a provider. And I didn't even notice the shift until it was already too late. Despite the slow shift in how she treated me and how her gratitude seemed to be drying up, even with the little red flags waving here and there, I decided to propose. Silly me. It was a low-key proposal. I picked out a ring that I thought was elegant. I chose it because it reminded me of her. Simple, strong, and beautiful. I thought the moment would be special. And for a second, it was. She smiled and said yes. But that moment didn't last long. Later that night, she brought up the ring. She looked at it and said, "This isn't really the kind of ring I was expecting." I was confused. I asked her what she meant. She said, "A memorable occasion like a proposal deserves a ring that's valuable. This one just feels cheap." I genuinely believed the gesture meant more than the jewelry. But she didn't see it that way. To her, the ring wasn't good enough. I sat with that for a while. I didn't argue or try to defend myself. At the end, I told myself something foolish. Well, if I truly love her, then the ring should be as valuable as she is to me. That was the logic I used to justify her reaction. I told her I'd replace the ring later with something more fitting for the occasion. And I did. I went out, spent more money, and got her another much expensive ring. And just like that, she was happy again. But looking back, that moment was the first real sign that something had shifted. That love was starting to feel transactional. Those special moments were now measured by how much I spent, not how much I felt. And still, I kept moving forward, thinking maybe once we were married, things would settle into something healthier. I couldn't have been more wrong. As they began planning their wedding and discussing family, Jasmine began to insert herself into my financial decisions. At first, it came in the form of curiosity, or at least that's how she framed it. She began casually asking questions about my savings, how much I had put away, where I was investing, and what my financial goals were. I didn't think much of it at the time. We were about to become husband and wife, so I figured it made sense for us to talk about money. But as the weeks went by, those questions started to come with a tone, like she was evaluating my choices, or measuring how generous I was being with others, especially compared to her and her family. It became even more uncomfortable when she started questioning me every time I told her family I couldn't send money. I had already been helping her parents behind the scenes, without making a show of it. But whenever I said something like, "I'm low on cash this week," or "I need to hold back on spending right now," Jasmine would immediately follow up with, "Did you give money to your cousin again, or are you supporting one of your brothers this time?" The assumption wasn't just that I had money. I was being accused of giving it to others instead of her or her family. And let's be honest, that kind of questioning doesn't come from love or concern. It comes from entitlement. Then there's a night I'll never forget. I had worked a long day and crashed early on the couch. I wasn't fully asleep when I felt her moving beside me. At first, I thought maybe she was just checking the time or replying to a message. But I heard the familiar clicks and taps. I kept still and opened one eye just a little. And sure enough, Jasmine was on my phone, flipping through my bank app. I just lay there quietly, pretending to sleep while watching to see what her motive is. I know some people would say I should have woken up and called her out right then. But instead, I waited. I let her think she got away with it. And the next morning, I changed the password on my phone and added biometric locks to all my financial apps. But after that day, I decided to be firmer with her. I had just come out of a failed business venture recently, and I lost a significant amount of money. Not enough to ruin me, but enough to mess with my ability to keep things moving in my main business. Around this time, Jasmine came to me with a list of certain expensive personal things. I sat her down and told her clearly, "Look, business isn't great right now. I'm holding back on expenses across the board. None of these things are essential, and I need you to understand that." She nodded, said something like, "Of course, baby. I understand. Let me know if there's anything I can do to help." I remember feeling relieved in that moment. I thought she saw the pressure I was under and was finally going to meet me halfway. But what I didn't know then was that her understanding was just an act. There is a storm building, and it wouldn't be long before it exploded. One evening, I was in the living room on the phone with my business partner. We'd been talking for about 45 minutes, going back and forth on a potential investment opportunity, my nephew's tech startup. Now, my nephew isn't just dabbling in something random. The kid's smart. His platform had real potential to improve how we manage inventory and automate order flows. It wasn't just about family. It made business sense. I was passionate about it. I explained how I believed his idea could give our company an edge. After laying out the numbers and discussing risk margins, my partner and I decided we'd both invest, partly through our company and partly out of pocket. That decision felt good. I thought I was taking a meaningful step for both family and business. But I had no clue Jasmine had been standing nearby the whole time, listening to every word like a secret jury member waiting to slam the gavel. The moment I dropped the call and turned around, she let loose. "So, you're really going to waste our money on your nephew's garbage," she barked with arms crossed. "You know I have things I've needed for weeks, things I told you about, and you ignore them, but somehow this gets your money?" I froze. "Our money?" I asked, trying to stay calm. She said it like we built it together. But she wasn't done. She stepped closer and doubled down, her voice rising with every sentence. "You will do as I say," she said. Her finger pointed straight at me like I was a child getting scolded. "I will not agree to that investment. Not 1 cent. You haven't even asked me if my business needs a cash injection in months." I blinked. "Do you even know what the startup does?" I asked. Do you understand the value? She waved her hand dismissively. I don't care. I don't want to know. I don't need to know. What I know is that you're not spending a dime on it. And that was when I reached my limit. This was something else entirely. This is entitlement, disrespect, and control wrapped into one. I didn't say another word. I nodded, and slowly, I turned around and walked upstairs. She kept yelling behind me, calling me stupid, telling me I'd regret it. I ignored every word. I walked straight into the bedroom, pulled out a few suitcases, and started folding her clothes into them one by one. As I came downstairs with her bags in hand, she was standing in the hallway, still fuming. She laughed when she saw me. You're bluffing, she said. You're really going to throw me out over this? She dared me with that look, like she thought I couldn't follow through. I didn't say a word. I dropped her bags right by the front door, turned around, and opened it wide. You're leaving, I said. She laughed again until she saw I wasn't moving from that door. She tried to argue. Then she threatened me. If you touch me, I'll call the police. I'll sue you for assault. I picked up the bags again, stepped outside, placed them on the lawn, and walked back in. As soon as she stepped out to grab the bags, still yelling, pleading, threatening, I locked the door. For hours, she banged on the door, screaming. I was exhausted both mentally, emotionally, and I was done being guilt-tripped. Hours later, the noise stopped. I looked through the peephole. She was gone. That night, I got one last text. You will regret this. I didn't reply. There was nothing left to say. I had reached my breaking point. And this time, I wasn't turning back. The next morning, my phone buzzed with a text from Jasmine. I hadn't expected her to give up easily. She wrote, You're going to end our years of relationship because I'm trying to save you from throwing money away? I just stared at the screen for a few seconds. I wasn't surprised that she wasn't apologizing. She was just flipping the narrative like she always did, acting like she was the one looking out for me. I replied calmly. I said, When I spend money on you and your family, it's not a waste. But when I spend on my relatives, it's garbage. I'm tired of your control and manipulation. A few hours passed, and she texted again. This one was different. Less attitude, more desperation. She said she was staying in a hotel, and that she couldn't afford another night. She asked if she could come back home. She was used to me stepping in when things got rough, and now that the support was gone, she didn't know what to do. After a while, I replied, Go to your parents' house. And I meant what I said. That's when it seemed to occur to her that I was serious, that this wasn't a game or a temporary tantrum, that I wasn't bluffing like she probably thought I was when I put her bags outside. She sent a few more messages. I could see the typing bubbles come and go, as if she didn't know what else to say. But I didn't reply again. I'd said what needed to be said. So 3 days after I threw Jasmine out of the house, I was sitting at my desk at the office, trying to focus on a backlog of work. My phone buzzed a couple of times. I glanced at the screen, and there it was, Jasmine's mom. I won't lie, I had a feeling she'd eventually reach out, but I wasn't in the mood for any guilt trips or emotional games, so I ignore it. A few minutes later, it rang again. Then again. After the fourth call, I sighed and picked up. Before I could even say hello properly, she jumped right in. Her voice sounded worn, and for the first time, I could hear a kind of desperation in it. She said, Henry, I know what happened between you and Jasmine. I'm not calling to argue. But right now, we can't get groceries. Rent is due soon. You cut off the weekly money you used to send. Hearing that just froze me for a second. There wasn't even a pause to ask how I was doing or whether I was okay. No effort to understand what I'd gone through or what led to the breakdown between her daughter and me. It was straight to business. Straight to the money. I leaned back in my chair, took a deep breath, and said in the calmest tone I could manage, Ma'am, I helped because I cared. I genuinely thought Jasmine cared back. But I'm no one's ATM. And from now on, I'll be holding back all my charities. She went quiet for a moment. Then she did something I didn't expect. She begged. She said, Please, Henry, just take Jasmine back. We need you. And that right there told me everything I needed to know. All these weren't about love. It was about survival. They weren't worried about the relationship ending. They were worried about the financial faucet being turned off. That call with her mother opened my eyes in a way no argument or breakup ever could. I hung up and just sat there, staring at my desk for a while. I had finally seen the truth that I had kept making excuses for all these years. And I promised myself, never again. Honestly, I really want to hear what you all think. Did I handle this the right way? What would you do if you were in my shoes? This wasn't easy for me. It might sound like I just kicked her out and shut the door, but that came after years of patience and giving. So please, tell me, drop your thoughts in the comments. Let's talk about it. And if you think more people need to hear this kind of story about standing up for yourself, recognizing manipulation even when it's wrapped in affection, please go ahead and like the video. Share it with someone who might be in a similar situation and needs a little perspective.